Hello everyone, this is Veysel Kocaman, CTO at Johnson Labs. Today I'm going to present how we automated the Oncology Patient Registry system with Multimodal AI, Agentic Workflow, and Human Oversight. So during this session, I'll show you how we can build a fully automated cancer registry reporting system using a combination of Multimodal AI and Human Oversight. And the end goal will be to finally make the registry automation process both accurate and explainable. So with this automation, what we are trying to achieve is simply to reach certified tumor registry level accuracy at scale. So what is cancer registry system anyway? A cancer registry is a systematic collection of data about cancer patients covering demographics, diagnosis details, treatments, and outcomes. These are critical resources for monitoring cancer patient patterns and improving patient care at the end of the day, right? So traditionally, this work is done manually by certified tumor registrars. We call them CTRs in short. It's an incredibly detailed, labor-intensive process that takes roughly 2 hours per case. Now imagine doing that hundreds of times a week across thousands of patients, and it's no surprise that backlogs are a huge issue. And the end goal here isn't the data for the sake of data. It's about improving cancer outcomes because the cancer reporting system is already there to utilize all this data to improve the cancer research and treatment options in a timely manner. So the time matters a lot over there, but the burden is too big. So that we can, by using all this data, we can enable earlier detection, better treatment protocols, and more personalized patient care if we can utilize this data at a national level by consolidating all the data from different data providers. So the governing bodies, that's why there are some governing bodies in this system. Governing bodies, as you see in this slide, include the National Program of Cancer Registries, NPCR in the United States, and there are some other international organizations as well. And each country basically have their own cancer registry system or agency. So all stakeholders in this systems, namely hospitals, researchers, policymakers, and clinics, they all rely on this data. So they also rely on this data for their own purposes, by the way, the data providers. After when the data is consolidated at the registry level, all these data providers also, all these stakeholders also rely on this data being accurate and timely. But as we'll see, that's exactly where the system is breaking down. So on this page, you'll see how current US cancer registry extraction workflow works. So this is a simple extraction. It's not a simple, but it's a highly detailed extraction workflow, which is almost same in every other country, of course, depending on some local regulations. But most of the time, these are the requirements that we need to ensure while running this extraction workflow. So the data starts at the reporting level. Reporting levels like data providers, hospitals, labs, physicians, those are all data providers, right? And they are all reporting level. We call them reporting level. And they send all this data to state level central registries. And then it's finally consolidated nationally by programs like NPCR or SCI or SEER. So I'm not going to talk about how to consolidate at the national level, but how to automate this step between reporting level to the other registries, right? So that we reduce the burden on the reporting agencies, reporting level, hospitals, labs, physicians. That's what we are trying to optimize during this call. So every layer in this diagram adds manual triage, quality control, and follow-backs. The critical issue here is the delay itself. The typical delay that I'm talking here goes from diagnosis to national reporting is about 12 to 24 months. Meaning that the policymakers at that reporting level or at this registry level are usually looking at the data that is already 2 years out of the date. So when a reporting level, like hospitals report their evidences, report their fields, cancer registry data to policymakers, regulatory levels, it often takes about 12 to 24 months. Meaning that all these registry level policymakers are often looking at the data that is already 2 years old. So you can easily imagine the opportunities lost over there, right? So by relying on outdated data that could have been utilized for a better treatment options at national level if they had been reported in a better way. So let's talk about why this work is so challenging. Registrars have to read registers means like at the reporting level, they have to read through everything because they are the one owning the data or first stage to process the data. They need to read everything like pathology reports, clinical notes, surgery reports, radiology images, genomic results, and so on. And they try to pull out just the structured data fields that matter. So if this data would already be in a structured manner, it would be an easy like SQL process, right? But the data is spread across hundreds of thousands of sometimes documents for one single patient, for one single case. So imagine a cancer patient having a treatment for the last 10 years. So there are probably more than 1,000 documents already produced just for one single patient. And then the registered, like a certified tumor register, CTRs, needs to go through all these reports to find some evidences, and they also need to check the guidelines to decide which cancer stage or which ICD-10 code, etc. So that's why this process is quite complex and time consuming. It's like finding a few key sentences in a 1,000-page book. So to illustrate this situation, one spectacular example would be that so according to certain official reports, one large registry in the United States found that only 4% of EPAT reports were reportable, which means that only 4% of the reports that they read has some information to report, which has some supporting evidence to the report to create the final layer, to create the final fields. So the rest is simply noise, which means that the CTRs, registers, the human in this loop, spend 96% of their time just to skip through some irrelevant documents. So on top of that, there is a compliance crisis. So the MPCR, which is a regulatory body on top of everything, their target is that 90% of the cases should be reported within 12 months, which means that when you have some evidence, when you have some case that you are dealing with at the reporting level at hospital, you need to report it. You need to report the 90% of these cases within 12 months. Or all the cases like at national level needs to be reported, needs to be at most 12 months old, right? But the reality is that only 14% of the registries meet that goal, which means that 86% of the time registry level, like reporting level delays reporting this, and national average lag is about 23 months. That's horrible, right? So even though we are covering almost entire population, the goal is to cover entire population at a national level, we are often working with outdated or incomplete data. So the consequences of this situation could be really really harmful when it comes to finding some certain cure for certain cancer type, right? Okay, so another problem that we call is rulebook problem. And it's not just about volume, it's also about complexity. So there are some certain guidelines that I mentioned before, like SEER, AJCC, etc. They set the rules, what to extract, how to extract for different situations. And these guidelines together exceed more than 2,000 pages of flowcharts and branching logic that you see on the right side of this page. So it's a quite complex logic. That's why certified tumor registers are highly trained, and they need to spend so much time to follow the rules in this flowcharts. And also each cancer type has its own rules for staging, grading, and biomarkers. So for instance, on top of everything, in 2018, the specifications changed a bit. Not change a bit, but it changed drastically, I guess. The time, and then after these changes, the time it took to abstract each case almost doubled. And then when they change it again in 10 years, because all the guidelines needs to change, and then the certified registers needs to retrain themselves, relearn all these skills. So it will probably double the abstraction time again. So how can we possibly assume that human can keep up with all these evolving rules and then find and navigate all these manually, right? So this is a job for computer actually. So this is a perfect example. That's why we try to automate this process. So one of the most popular ontology when it comes to cancer registry is MCODE. Because as I said, there are certain guidelines and there are some standards as well, and then the MCODE is the most popular one, which is open source. You can go ahead and then download, by the way. So it means minimal common oncology data elements. So it is basically there to bridge the current gap in the quality of cancer registry data. So the MCODE project is basically designed to provide a consensus among all these unstructured data, or what kind of data needs to be reported at what level and in which granularity, even if it looks, if it is there to standardize, it is still quite a complex ontology with more than 400 data elements, as you see in this picture. So we are thankful that MCODE is there. At least we know we have an open source ontology that we can look at and then try to unlock this, but it is still quite complex. And if we imagine that some institution may opt in or out for certain elements, maybe they already automated some pieces, they only extract certain pieces, maybe they already layered this process. Some departments are already only extracting the lab certain fields, another department doing another fields, etc. So there are probably hundreds of different combinations just for 400 different data elements. So this is where the human factor really shows. There is a critical shortage of certified tumor registers, as in every healthcare practitioner, right? And many registries already report vacancies that they cannot fill because it's a highly labor-intensive task, and especially the new generation do not want to sit down and then work on this kind of labor-intensive task for hours, for weeks, for their entire life. So that's why it's hard to replace them, hard to replace these CTRs. And each abstraction takes about 2 hours, which means that most registers can only process 6 to 8 cases a day. And burnout is really real. So they are, and because we need to maintain the accuracy, meet the timelines, abide by all the rules dictated by the regulatory bodies, and manage the increasing case complexity. So we are basically again asking humans to do the job that software could be helping with. So let's talk about how we are tackling this at Johnson Labs. So here we build a production test approach that combines multimodal AI, agentic workflows for certain stages, and human in the loop system. Our system basically does four main things. At the first layer, we create and extract the data from all clinical sources. There is a data ingestion pipeline and then filtering pipeline to remove the irrelevant data by using small language models and pre-trained clinical models that we have been building at Johnson Labs for the last 7 years. At the first layer, we try to weed out the irrelevant documents and then put them in a timeline. And then the second level, we build a patient level reasoning to reconcile records in time. So, and then the third one is we apply oncology-specific logic. So this is where agent plays a role, by the way, because we need to abide by certain guidelines. We need to extract certain fields according to certain criteria, and then for each stage, for each element, there might be different logic that we need to automate. And then the last piece is providing a UI, like a user-friendly application that human or certified tumor register can just easily go through, do the validation and feedback, and then automate certain process, and then without turning the pages all week. By the way, this system is not just theoretical. It's already live in production. We are testing with different ontologies. We are trying to expand it further into other ontologies as well, and we are already getting some measurable, nice results. So the core challenge addressed by this architecture is that the accurate abstraction requires understanding the entire longitudinal timeline of a patient's cancer journey. So not just a single report. So the timeline matters a lot because all this information is a patient level information that needs to be reported. It's not like you extract that information from one document, but if you don't check the next document preceding that document, you will have or previous document or next document, you will have an issue because the tumor stage might have changed. Different doctors might assign different staging, or different size of tumor might indicate different stage information. So what we do here is that the system automatically assembles the patient timeline and group encounters to establish a chronological context, and then with the help of longitudinal view, we basically span the entire journey over multiple encounters, documents, so that we enable accurate abstraction. So here's what automation looks like in practice. We start with pre-filled oncology taxonomy aligned to certain guidelines like MCODE, as we said. So, and then we try to use this taxonomy to extract certain fields given the source data. So on this slide, you see the result of a sample extraction. For each data element extracted, you will see a confidence scores to help users while reviewing. You can basically loop through patients one by one, see the data elements extracted, and users can even see alternative normalized values for each data element to save time. So normalized value means that because you cannot just report whatever you read in the document, you need to normalize, because otherwise the registry level, like national level registries, cannot consolidate the data if you report unnormalized values. So the most important piece of this flow is that we use a review by exception workflow. It means that human only review cases where AI isn't confident or where something doesn't align well. Rather than just letting AI to decide everything. So there is a workflow over there that we help human to see the discrepancies, low confidence scores, some exception, some edge cases, so that the team can collaborate over this platform and then improve the system accuracy through the time, right? So if everyone's collaborating on the same platform, so we will have a much more improved system at the end of the day. So human oversight is key here, as I have been mentioning again and again. So every extracted value includes clickable provenance, because if we just provide the confidence scores, it's not enough, right? So the users also needs to see where this information came from. So we have supporting evidence, contradictory evidence, ancillary evidences, primary evidences, etc., so that the registrars can see exactly where the data came from literally. So because our system highlights the fields that AI picks while making this decision, so that it is flagged as review needed or approve needed, etc., or you can even set some thresholds to reject or approve. So, of course, you might be thinking that why we cannot just dump all the data into an LLM? Because there are million token context limits, there are some private LLMs by big tech companies. Why not we just dump all the data? So that doesn't work. We also tried this, right? Because like that's what everyone tried. So naive approach would be dump everything. But even if the context limit is 1 million, if you try to squeeze everything into that context, after 30K token, usually the research says that the model performance degrades. So that's why we use some hybrid approach to combine domain-specific NLP models, small language models, multimodal vision models to process each type of document in a different way, rather than putting them all into one single LLM, because it's also easy to debug if you use a layer system. So we basically use a layered summarization and applied field level accuracy metrics to ensure compliance. To abstract accurately, you need to understand the entire longitudinal view. So as I mentioned before, we build a timeline. So our system basically automatically assemble the patient timeline, group encounters, establish chronological context. And by doing so, we need to optimize the token budget, as I explained before. So this process starts with document ingestion and then goes to timeline assembly. So in this diagram, I already showed the entire diagram that we have. It is a bit complex here than this, but I try to visualize the story. We have document ingestion, and then the timeline assembly, and then auto abstraction agents, and then human validation to simplify this diagram. And then at the end of the day, users just see review needed. Here are the fields extracted for this patient, for this report, etc. So let me state this again. What we are trying to achieve is, with this platform, is simply to reach CTR level accuracy. CTR level accuracy means that to be able to do this at scale with much shorter time at a better accuracy. And so that we can build registry that is updated daily, reflect every patient's reality, rather than relying on 2 years old data. Registrars can rely on like at most 1 month old data. 1 month old data. So this will give less churn and far fewer less errors. So according to our calculations, our automation already reduced the abstraction time from 2 hours to 2 minutes. So it's like 98% reduction in time. So that's a productivity gain around almost 100 times. So if I put this money, put into a financial budget, right, I can say that for a typical registry that processed 20,000 cases annually, the annual cost would be 1 million probably because of the CTR's expenses. So you can drop this around 200K, 160K, as you can see in this chart. The saving and then the accuracy improvement is already highly spectacular here, by the way. So that's what I wanted to cover all day. Thank you everyone for listening to me. Please reach out to us if you would like to get more information about this solution or have a live demo maybe. We would be happy to help you further or explain how we try to solve this and what we can do, what we can more to improve this process that we are already doing. So I hope you enjoyed the rest of the summit. Thank you again.